It was a tremendous achievement when LeBron James broke Kareem Abdul-Jabar's all-time scoring record. Kareem was a high-quality scorer and had played at a very high level for a long time. But James proved that even the most impressive records aren't safe. So are all the most cherished and long-standing NBA records destined to be broken? Perhaps not. The game has changed so much in the last decade. Basketball is faster and has more three-pointers attempted and made than ever before. That has caused some records, like the most successful shots from behind the arc or total points, more attainable. But others may be more difficult to break. So here are the 10 records least likely to be broken in the modern game. Most consecutive games won, LA Lakers, 33, 1971-72. The NBA has become far more competitive over the years. Today, there are no easy games in the league, but back in the early 1970s, the league was far more lopsided. The teams with the highest quality centers tended to dominate everyone else. Then you add the unparalleled excellence of the 1971-72 Lakers into the mix and have a heady brew that is impossible to replicate. The streak wasn't just the longest in NBA history, it was also the most protracted in the annals of professional sports. That team was ridiculously talented, featuring Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West, but the stellar coaching of legend Bill Sharman made them the most compelling NBA team ever seen. He was the first coach to convince Wilt to focus on defense rather than just obliterating on offense, and the team showed drastic improvement as a result. The combination of this much talent and efficiency in a very lopsided league led to a record that will never be broken. Most lifetime blocks. Hakeem Olajuwon, 3,830. When we think of blocks, the first guy that comes to mind is usually Dikembe Mutombo, right? But Hakeem has 500 more blocks. Mutombo wasn't even in the same class, and there are no blockers like either anymore. How come? Well, the game is less physical. A lot of those blocks would be called fouls today. There are also fewer drives to the basket, as outside shots have significantly increased in frequency. Finally, centers today spend much less time in the paint than they used to. Players in that position are playing a multi-layered game involving more mid-range jumpers, screens, movement without the ball, and sophisticated passing to find the open man. Want some evidence? There are no current players in the top 20 all-time blockers. It used to be common to have players with 4 blocks per game. 2 players even topped 5. But only one of the past 6 leaders had over 3 blocks per game. Usually the leader has 2 and change. Blocking is a lost art, and Hakeem will remain the absolute master. Most rebounds in a game. Wilt Chamberlain, 55. Wilt Chamberlain took down 55 boards against the Celtics in November 1960. There are plenty of excellent rebounders in the game today. Rudy Gobert and Nikola Jokic come to mind. And perhaps they are technically as good or better at taking down boards than old-time greats like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. But back then, big guys were physically dominant and ruled the paint in a way we can't even imagine today. The top 56 individual game performances with the most rebounds are divided between Wilt and Bill. Maurice Stokes, Jerry Lucas, Neil Johnston, and Nate Thurmond sneak in among those top performances. All are old-timers who achieved those tallies before 1973. While Wilt and Bill crossed the 40 and even the 50 rebound per game frontier on numerous occasions, today it is incredibly rare for a player to approach 30. Only 4 players have done so this century: Enes Kanter, Dwight Howard, Kevin Love, and Andrew Bynum. This record seems completely unbreakable as non-center players have become more adept at taking rebounds and centers spend less time in the paint. Best point average for a season, Wilt Chamberlain, 50.4, 1961-62. We were talking about Wilt's rebounding chops, but he wasn't the Dennis Rodman of his time. The man could score unlike any other before or since. Of course, everyone knows this was the year Wilt scored 100 points in one game, but putting that remarkable achievement, and another record that won't be broken, into context is essential. Except for Bill Russell, no one could guard him. Chamberlain could dunk over anyone and had a ridiculously unblockable fadeaway shot. It isn't just that Wilt was a scoring machine. He played in an era where basketball was not ready for that combination of size, strength, and skill. So Chamberlain played like he was in the most accessible video game mode. There will never be another player averaging over 50. It would be surprising if someone topped 40. Highest free throw percentage per season, Jose Calderon, 98.1%, 2008 to 2009. Many records here were made when basketball was different and relied on circumstances, but Jose Calderon's freak 2008 to 2009 free throw percentage is a case of pure excellence. Of course, it could have happened in any period, but the level of accuracy the Spanish point guard showed from the line is unparalleled. The closest anyone has come Calvin Murphy's incredible 1980 to 81 season performance, where he got 95.8% free throws. So not even close, and it has been almost 15 years since anyone passed 95%. I know what you might be thinking. Calderon probably took a low number of throws, and that is why the average is so high. No, the hypothetical viewer, quite the opposite. Calderon also had a career high in free throw attempts in 2008 to 2009, with 154 for the year. Because he took so many shots, Jose also had more opportunities to miss, but he had 151 of them. That makes this record even more tremendous. And here is the bizarre part. In 2009 to 10, Calderon's free throw numbers plummeted to a career low of 79.8%. That was a freak season and a stupendous achievement that has not been rivaled since. Today's game of load management and increasingly common injuries, it's hard to believe anyone will ever break Robert Parrish's appearances record. LeBron James is an incredible workhorse, but with close to 200 games to catch Parrish at age 38, his odds are slim. No other active players are in the ballpark, and it will stay that way. Parrish played until age 43 and retired in 1997. His rookie season was in 1976 to 77. Let that one sink in. Over those 30 years, Robert averaged almost 15 points per game and 10 rebounds with terrific defense. No one but Kareem had a long career of this quality. LeBron will rival him in this regard, but cannot surpass the durability of the Chief. Most likely, no one ever will. Most consecutive games, AC Green, 1,192. Another one of those old-school Iron Men is AC Green, a three-time champion with the Lakers, Green. The player didn't miss a game from November 19, 1986 to his last on April 18, 2001. Of course, the game has changed quite a bit, and even though we have a lot of very tough players out there, it's hard to see them replicating this streak. Mikal Bridges is almost halfway there, but today's environment makes it hard to believe this fantastic player will break the record. Most assists in a game, Scott Skiles, 30, December 30th, 1990. Scott passed for 30 assists back in 1990. The record was a bit of a fluke because Skiles was a good point guard but never led the league in assists or anything, and at the time that did not seem like an unbreakable record. It was just one ahead of Kevin Porter's previous record of 29, with fantastic point guards like John Stockton around. Indeed, Stockton would come pretty close just 2 weeks later, passing for 28 on January 15, 1991. But a lot of time has passed since then, and the closest anyone has come since was Rajon Rondo's 25 tally 5 years ago. Today we can look back at the late 1980s and early 1990s as the golden days of the assist. It started with the dominance of Magic Johnson, who reached over 13 assists per game at his peak. That was the highest anyone had achieved until that point. But it set the trend. Isaiah Thomas soon broke his record with 13.86 per game in 1984 to 85. Then Stockton outpassed both, with a 14.54 average in 1989 to 90. Since that era, no one has passed for over 12 assists per game. How come? As always, the culprit isn't a lack of talent by modern players, but rather a changing game. Point guards today shoot more often, and other positions have increased playmaking responsibilities. The most extreme example is Nikola Jokic, who passes for more assists than most point guards. Basically, everyone is doing more passing to make the game less predictable, so the chances of one player passing for 30 today are slim. Most assists in a career, John Stockton, 15,806. The number Skiles put together was a one-time thing, but Stockton was likely the best passer in the history of basketball, and his entire career reflects that. The numbers certainly support that argument. The most prolific point guards since Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, and Steve Nash are thousands of assists behind Stockton. The combination of the point guard's GOAT-level skills and the heyday of the dishing point guard means that John has racked numbers that will never be equaled. Most triple-doubles for a career, Russell Westbrook, 198. Long-retired legends set a lot of these records, but one legend is still on the court and very much still kicking. Russell Westbrook has a unique set of skills that has never quite been seen in one player before. A triple-double is generally considered a remarkable achievement, where a player achieves excellence in all main categories: points, rebounds, and assists. But most good players, they reach on occasion and are proud of it. But for Westbrook, it is a commonplace occurrence. So far, he has racked up 198 and still counting. That puts him 17 ahead of all-time great Oscar Robertson and 91 ahead of LeBron James, the closest active player on the list. Perhaps most amazingly, Westbrook now has more triple-doubles than Michael Jordan made double-doubles. And though many of his critics accuse Westbrook of stat padding, there is no denying his eye-popping numbers. It is hard to believe any player will top the record soon, especially since the man is still going. Top 10 unbreakable records in NBA history. Sometimes we can valorize the old-time greats because they put up such incredible numbers, but many of those records have been and will be broken. But in the cases here, they probably will not be broken. The reason is not that Wilt, Stockton, or Green are better than the players today, but the game has changed and made those spectacular feats unapproachable.